Coast to coast, from border to border, from sea to shining sea, Sean Hannity is on. From the Fox News headquarters in New York City, this is Hannity's America.
Let freedom ring, let the white dove sing, let the
Hey, welcome to Hannity's America. We're glad you're with us. I'm Sean Hannity, and coming up tonight, rising temperatures around the globe can be attributed to the hot air of global warming fanatics. Now, we're going to debate it, and the great one, Mark Levin, will join me as we go 2-on-2 this week, and then we'll take you inside the most dangerous terrorist organization on the planet with an unauthorized history of Hezbollah. Plus, we'll also tell you how environmental extremists are taking advantage of the little polar bear to push their own political agenda. And forget Danica Patrick, there is a new First Lady of race car driving, and let's just say she leaves her male counterparts in the dust. And we'll also reveal our enemy of the week. But first, we begin tonight with the state of America, and it is one of dangerous doublespeak. The Democratic Party is trying to sneak one past the American people, and the man who is trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes is Congressman John Murtha. Now, 3 weeks ago, Murtha suggested cutting off funding to the troops in Iraq. But 54% of the American people said they didn't support cutting off funds to the troops. And the Democratic caucus of San Francisco Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that they didn't have the votes to cut off such a plan. But Murtha won't give up, and now his carefully chosen language reveals that even Democrats are sensitive to the political repercussions of abandoning Iraq. During an interview this morning on Meet the Press, Murtha refused to use the word withdrawal in reference to taking the troops out of Iraq. Instead, he insists on using the word, quote, redeployment, as if leaving the battlefield for the relative safety of Okinawa can be seen as anything other than a retreat.
Redeployment is the first move. Redeployment, I think, is the first step. I'd like to see a redeployment. The reason I want redeployment.
Now, Murtha and his liberal friends know that they can't be seen as waving the white flag, so instead they hide behind partisan rhetoric, all the while undermining our troops and discounting this threat to America. Having listened to their dangerous rhetoric, well, we thought Democrats could learn a little something from the great communicator himself. So we pulled out of the vault one of Ronald Reagan's greatest speeches to remind the cut and runners about the kind of words that should be used when facing down a dangerous enemy. Now, we're going to play that for you a little bit later in the show when we answer the question, so what would Reagan do? And that's the state of America tonight, and it brings us to our special investigation this week. When it comes to talking down the war effort, well, the left wing of America has found a willing accomplice in the mainstream media. Their blatant bias and one-sidedness was on full display last week when 60 Minutes ran a story about a handful of active-duty U.S. troops who are speaking out against the war. But as you will see, CBS willingly ignored the bigger picture because when you are blinded by bias, even 1% can make a majority.
Last Sunday, 60 Minutes aired a controversial report about active U.S. soldiers who are publicly expressing their opinion that American troops should withdraw from Iraq. But a critical look reveals that CBS left out several important parts of the story. The most glaring omission is that of context. When introducing the segment, correspondent Steve Croft made the following characterization about the troops who are voicing their dissent.
Dissension in the ranks from a large group of soldiers and Marines who are fed up.
Correspondent Lara Logan then went on to interview 10 soldiers who expressed their discontent about the war in Iraq.
It's simply just not working out anymore, and soldiers are dying there every day.
We can't stay in Iraq for the next 1,000 years.
But what wasn't immediately clear to the viewer was exactly how many troops are expressing these opinions. Now, according to press releases issued by the group on Monday morning after the 60 Minutes piece aired, more than 1,400 active duty members were in the process of sending letters of redress to the congressman. The group's website also has a running counter of the number of troops who have expressed similar feelings. As of Friday afternoon, that number stood at 1,701. While it might sound like a lot, that number constitutes only about 1% of all U.S. troops serving in Iraq. And since the group isn't just soliciting the grievances of current troops stationed in Iraq, but all active duty soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, including reservists and National Guardsmen serving all over the of the whole. According to the Pentagon, as of December 31st, 2006, there were 1,371,533 active duty U.S. military personnel around the world, meaning that 60 Minutes devoted their lead segment to the opposition of 0.1% of all armed forces. In order to provide you with some perspective, this past week, we also interviewed active duty troops to hear their opinions about the situation in Iraq.
I have not yet met a Marine personally that, doesn't agree with what we're doing or, thinks we're doing the wrong things.
If there's issues, opinions, or political viewpoints, all that's got to be set aside. We have to focus on the mission, win the hearts and minds of these people.
I'm, proud to say that I serve in 100% volunteer military. So the fact that, everybody is where they are, they volunteered for the mission. They volunteered to serve their country.
I have no doubt about the kind of mission I'm doing. And if I have to do it again, I'll do it again.
While it's easy to find soldiers who support the mission in Iraq, apparently 60 Minutes could only find 3. They must not have looked very hard, because on my trip to Iraq in December, well, I found lots of troops eager to talk about their mission in Iraq, and not a single one of them told us that U.S. troops should withdraw.
We are all soldiers. We serve at the leisure of the president. You can hear what all you want. 99.9% of the soldiers who are on ground have taken a vow and an oath to do this. These soldiers have not been duped. We knew exactly what we were getting ourselves into when we came to the military, and we have a much more intellectual, smarter force today.
In order to further gauge the feelings of the troops as a whole, we asked U.S. troops to email us if they feel differently than the 10 soldiers profiled by CBS. We promoted the email address for 6 days on Hannity and Combs, and we received hundreds and hundreds of responses. But as if blowing out of proportion the feelings of a tiny minority of troops wasn't bad enough, 60 Minutes cherry-picked information from a Military Times poll taken last December.
The poll found that for the first time ever, more U.S. soldiers oppose the president's handling of the war in Iraq than support it.
But that very same poll also specifically addressed the question of how many troops should be in Iraq, since that's what the story was about, and not necessarily the troops' feeling about President Bush. It would make sense to include that information, would it not? Now, the poll also asked, quote, "We currently have 145,000 troops in Iraq and Kuwait. How many troops do you think we should have there?" Well, only 13% of U.S. troops answered 0, 7% answered 0 to 50,000, and 6% answered 50,000 to 144,000. Now, when you total all those up, 26% of U.S. troops think that we should have fewer troops in Iraq than are there now, and very few even of those think that we shouldn't have any. On the flip side, 13% said the number of U.S. troops should remain the same at 145,000. 22% said we should actually increase the number of troops to between 146,000 and 200,000, and another 16% said we should increase the number of troops to greater than 200,000. That means that 51% believe we should keep the same number of troops or increase them. And by the way, that's from the very same poll. Furthermore, several of the troops who emailed us say that citing the favorability ratings of the president among members of the armed services is misleading, because the respondents who said they disapproved of the way the president is handling the war might have meant that they thought the president should send more troops to Iraq, not less. But there is another part to the story, one that CBS did not address, and one that goes to the heart of what is going on here. The ability of these soldiers to speak publicly is contingent on their not being linked to any partisan cause. They must be doing it as concerned citizens and not as the spokesman for some ideological agenda. 60 Minutes dealt with this question with a single short soundbite.
I'm certainly not liberal, and I doubt many of the members on this panel are liberal. It's not funded by any partisan organization.
And that was that. But a closer look suggests a different story. On their website, the group lists 3 sponsor organizations: Iraq Veterans Against the War, Military Families Speak Out, and Veterans for Peace, Now, for a group of people trying to stay away from partisanship, well, they're keeping some left-wing company. All three groups took part in the anti-war protest in Washington in January. So does this look like a non-partisan event to you?
Thank you so much for the courage to stand up against this mean-spirited, vengeful administration.
Now, speakers that day included several U.S. congressmen, all Democrats, as well as a handful of celebrities whose political affiliation isn't really in question. So the sponsors of the group clearly have a political agenda, but that's not all. We became aware of the 60 Minutes report on Thursday, February 22nd. That was 3 days before the story aired on CBS. It came to our attention through an email that we received from a publicist at Fenton Communications in Washington. But appealforredress.org is not Fenton's only client. The list reads like a who's who of left-wing advocacy groups. MoveOn.org, America Coming Together, Campaign for America's Future, the AFL-CIO, and the NAACP Voter Fund are just a few of their other clients. So the sponsors of the group are left-wing anti-war protesters, and their public relations mouthpiece spends the rest of their time flacking for George Soros and company, and we're to believe this is a non-partisan effort? Within hours of the 60 Minutes report airing, the blogosphere went crazy, pointing out many of the same issues that we highlighted here tonight. It made us think of another 60 Minutes story that also lacked the appropriate amount of due diligence. And in the end, we hope that the silent majority of U.S. troops gets to have their say. We aren't asking that CBS devotes 60 Minutes to presenting the other side, but more than 2 minutes, that might be nice.
And coming up, the great one, Mark Levin, and the rest of our 2 on 2 panel are going to be here with reaction to that piece. Plus, a report today claims Iran is ready to retaliate if the U.S. strikes its nuclear facilities. We expose Iranian-backed sleeper cells that are right here in America. And later, we show you how global warming extremists are taking advantage of the polar bear in the fight for their cause. All straight ahead.
The captioning for this program is brought to you by...
Does back pain limit your motion?
Get relief with Icy Hot Pro Therapy, powered by Hot Packs. Up to 8 hours of muscle-relaxing, pain-relieving heat.
Strong support plus powerful relief.
I was turning 50, and so were my eyes.
Nancy came into Pearl Vision for her annual checkup.
Now my eyes see perfectly.
They're Nancy's eyes, but they're my responsibility.
Come into Pearl Vision today and get 50% off all lenses.
Somewhere between where you are and where you're going, there's a Super 8. See you along the way.
So, you got that free checking account from Regions?
Yep.
What if you win the $1 million?
Well, we'll buy those window treatments for the guest bedroom, and then we'd buy that 7-piece dinette set with a matching baker's rack. And I would totally score the original captain's chair from Space Quest 2. It would be great.
Open a Regions free checking account, and you could win one of our weekly $10,000 prizes and have a chance to win $1 million.
Hey, Vicky. Everyone look that way.
Beneful? Beneful? You're definitely thinking Beneful. Uh-huh. With wholesome grains, real beef, even carrots and peas. You love the taste. I love the carbohydrates for energy and protein for muscles. You only think you're getting spoiled. Spoiled? And it's good for you, too.
Real wholesome ingredients, 4 different ways. Healthful, flavorful, Beneful. This is you. You've awakened in the dark because your sleep aid didn't give you a full night of sleep. And all you can do is lie there and wish you could go back to sleep. Tomorrow, ask your doctor about Lunesta. Non-narcotic Lunesta can help you sleep 7 to 8 peaceful, quiet hours. Lunesta helps you fall asleep quickly, so take it right before bed. Be sure you have at least 8 hours to devote to sleep before becoming active. Always talk to your doctor first before taking sleep aids for extended periods. Until you know how you'll react to Lunesta, you should not drive or operate machinery. Do not take Lunesta with alcohol. Most sleep medicines carry some risk of dependency. Side effects may include unpleasant taste, headache, drowsiness, and dizziness. Tomorrow night, Leave the rest to Lunesta.
Bashing Obama, trashing Hillary, slamming the ACLU. Finally, there's a show for the rest of us. You made us the #1 new show on cable, so this time, we'll hit them even harder. Tonight, don't miss an all-new half-hour news hour. It's Idol Mania week on Fox and Friends.
Who's a jerk?
From her bickering with Simon to cheering on the contestants, Paula tells Brian what's really going on behind the scenes. Monday, don't miss part 1 of this Fox and Friends exclusive.
And for more reaction to the 60 Minutes piece, we bring in our 2-on-2 panel. On my team, the great one, nationally syndicated radio talk show host Mark Levin, and our well-meaning liberal friends, Democratic strategist, Fox News contributor Laura Schwartz, and Democratic strategist Steve McMahon. Welcome all.
Thank you.
All right, Steve, I want to deal with this issue. First of all, the semantics. This is Murtha's word, redeployment. What it really means is we leave now whether we win or lose, which would really guarantee a loss here. And the fact that people like him, Chuck Schumer, and the Democrats, you don't have the courage to tell the American people what you mean and what will happen. Shouldn't we demand that they say redeployment means America loses, and that's acceptable in your world?
I think redeployment means that we begin to move troops out of the region and we begin to bring troops home, which is what most Americans support, Sean.
That's not true. Most Americans support victory first. You don't care if we win. You don't care if we guarantee victory.
Well, Sean, listen, let's look at what they went over there to accomplish. Number one, they wanted to make sure that there were no weapons of mass destruction. Surprise, there were none.
Steve, you're living in the
no, but Sean,
we debated this ages ago. I'm asking, is it acceptable for you? This is an important question.
What's victory, Sean?
If we leave now, we lose. Is that acceptable for you?
No, Sean, here's the question. What were they asked to do when they went over? They were asked to do 3 things. They were asked to deliver democracy to Iraq, which they've done. They were asked to get rid of Saddam, which they've done. They were asked to make sure there were no weapons of mass destruction, which they've done. What is victory, Sean? Do you think we're going to bring stability to the region?
Well, let me go to Mark Levin.
Because we'll be there 1,000 years.
Victory is that they can sustain themselves. Great one. They don't want to address this question. But if Murtha and the likes and Chuck Schumer and the rest of them have their way, we leave, our troops leave, and we guarantee mass slaughter, a humanitarian disaster, a home front for al-Qaeda in Iran.
Wasn't Murtha around on September 10th? Wasn't he around before 9/11? Wasn't he a powerful member of some committee back then? Did he call the alarm to al-Qaeda? No. Did he recommend any actions to protect this country that I'm aware of and to prevent 9/11? No. Maybe one of the liberals here can tell us.
I'll tell you, Mark.
Hold on.
I'll tell you.
Tell me.
I'll tell you, has there been a link? The 9/11 Commission didn't establish any link.
I didn't ask you that question. I didn't ask you that. I asked you about Al-Qaeda.
No, but Mark,
why don't you give me? Hold on now. Hold on. Why don't you give me one reason? Give me one thing Murtha did in all his years in the House of Representatives, other than try and take cash. Tell me what. Hold on now.
Let me tell you what he did.
Let me give you the question. You can't tell me. Excuse me. You can't tell me anything until I ask you the question.
If you let me answer the question, I'll tell you.
You don't want me to ask you a simple question.
If you let me
name one thing John Murtha did before 9/11 that would have taken on al-Qaeda. Go.
I'll tell you one thing he did, which nobody on this panel did. He served in Vietnam. He got shot at.
So he served in Vietnam to get al-Qaeda?
That's what he did.
Let me get Laura Schwartz in here.
Actually served in the military.
I asked you as a member of Congress, what did he do to fight al-Qaeda? And you bring up his service in Vietnam. In other words, he did zero.
I think he knows something about combat.
He knows crap.
I think he knows something about
Let me get Laura Schwartz in before we break.
What about this president that went in with not enough troops to just win the war, but not and fail at winning the peace, and now we created a farm team
What did your hero Bill Clinton do to the armed forces? Were there more troops when he was in than when he left? Yes or no?
Hey, President Clinton gave our armed forces everything that they asked for. Plus,
in there when he got there or when he left? There were less.
I believe more people have gone in to volunteer for the armed services since he left. We also have more people of age of 18 since he's left.
If you want to cut off funding for the war, stop playing around with this rhetoric. Why don't you ask your Democratic friends? They have the constitutional authority to cut off funding. Why don't they start being straight with the American people? Because politically, they know the American people don't support it.
Well, and they don't support it either because we can't cut off funding for our troops that are in harm's way.
But you can't.
That's what they're going to do if they redeploy.
For the National Guard and Reservists back in this country so that they can train with the same weaponry that they're going to have to use when they're over there. We have to send them prepared and with the right body armor and the armored
You guys are very good at cutting off the troops on the battlefield. You did it during Vietnam.
All right, quick break. We'll come back. More of our 2-on-2 panel.
Would still be going on today if they didn't.
When we come back, we'll tackle Hollywood and its hypocrisy. They all say they're going to be green, but are they really? Is it Al Gore, Gulfstream hypocrisy? Straight ahead.
I'm Darren Anderson, President of the National Association of Payday Lenders. We want you always to use payday advances responsibly. Payday advances are never designed to be a long-term financial solution. It is one way to deal with unplanned short-term expenses. Please borrow only what you feel comfortable paying back when it's due. This seal is your assurance that you're dealing with a responsible lender.
Always use payday advances responsibly.
It's not just about reaching your goals. It's about reaching your dreams, too. Now with HSBC Direct Online Savings, you'll earn 6% APY on new money until April 30th. 11 times the national savings average. Go to hsbcdirect.com for details and reach your goals and your dreams faster.
Why would you want an ED tablet that works up to 36 hours? Because life is full of interruptions. That's all right. You have up to 36 hours with Cialis. Cialis is the only erectile dysfunction tablet clinically proven to work up to 36 hours. 36 hours to relax and enjoy yourselves, knowing you can still be ready when the moment is eventually right. Tell your doctor about your medical conditions and all medications, and ask if you're healthy enough for sexual activity. Don't take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pain, as this may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure. Don't drink alcohol in excess with Cialis. Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. To avoid long-term injury, seek immediate medical help if you experience priapism, an erection lasting more than 4 hours. If you have any sudden decrease in vision, stop taking Cialis and call your doctor right away. Go ahead, take your time. 36-hour Cialis. When the moment is right, will you be ready?
Charter digital cable.
Charter high-speed internet.
Charter telephone.
Sports, movies, premium channels, crystal clear picture and sound.
Super fast internet speeds, plus the features that I need.
Unlimited local and long-distance calling in the U.S. and Canada on one simple plan.
You bundle, you save, and you get it all.
And if he's happy, you know I'm happy.
I am set.
Thank you.
Get all 3 services for only $119.97 per month. Call today.
Everything you want, every time you visit. The Wyndham by Request program. Stay 3 nights at a Wyndham resort and get the 4th night free with Getaways by Request. Call 1-800-WYNDHAM or visit wyndham.com.
And we continue now with our 2-on-2 panel. Nationally syndicated radio talk show host Mark Levin, Fox News contributor Laura Schwartz, Democratic strategist Steve McMahon. Let me read from UK News here, Steve. It says, accepted theories about man causing global warming are lies, claims a new controversial TV documentary. The Great Global Warming Swindle, backed by eminent scientists, is set to rock accepted consensus that climate change is driven by humans. Now, throughout this segment, we're going to put the names of prominent scientists that disagree with Al Gore's hysterical views and are skeptical of this, people that have devoted their entire lives to this issue. So let me ask you this, Steve McMahon. When Al Gore flies in a private jet, when he uses 20 times the amount of energy in one of his 4 homes than the average American, and lectures us about our SUVs, is he a hypocrite?
Well, listen, Sean, I think everybody could do better, including Al Gore. I think he'd tell you that. And I don't think that, frankly, anybody probably's life would be destroyed if they didn't get to fly around in a private jet.
I didn't ask you. But I said, is he a hypocrite? If he gets on a private jet and uses 20 times the amount of energy, why can't you just say yes?
Sean, can you be a sinner and think sin is wrong? I mean, come on.
Well, no, I can buy carbon. I can buy sin offsets.
Absolutely serious. And I think that he is buying carbon offsets, and he's doing everything that you can do to make his home climate neutral.
No, he's not.
I mean, look, all you can do is what you can do, Sean, and he's trying, I think, to do it. But the point is, the Republicans haven't even admitted. Republicans haven't even admitted that there's a problem, Sean.
All right,
here
hang
you are
on.
challenging
Let me get everybody in here. Great one. Your response.
You know, you got national.
First of all, hold on now. Hold on. To answer your question, yes, he's a hypocrite. Now, on this issue of Al Gore and these carbon offsets, whatever that is, since it's really not well defined, since we don't really have any way of evaluating what that means, Al Gore is the chairman of Generation Investment Management. So when he says that he is, hold on now, this is important. When he says he's buying carbon offsets for all the pollution he's spewing in the air, he's buying them from the company he chairs. And at some point, this is going to be looked into. He is pushing a phony
Mark,
science.
it already has, and that is a
lie.
Mark,
science.
that is a lie.
He's pushing.
The Generation Investment Management does not invest in carbon offset companies.
Laura, you got to let him finish, then you go.
It's a total lie, Sean.
If it's a lie, then blame the hold on now. Why is it a lie? The Tennessean spells it out. He's chairman of it. And this swapping of this carbon offset nonsense, he's doing it through this company. How's that a lie?
No. First of all, he does it through two companies. One is called Climate Change Chicago.
Does he own that one, too?
No, he has no interest in that one, but they purchase the carbon offsets. Then there's also carbon neutral.
Well,
Generation Investment Management.
All right, let me ask.
Generation Investment Management.
Let me ask this question without getting distracted.
No, you got it. Hey, you bring it up. I got to address it.
Laura, let me ask you a question. If polluting the planet, Laura, help me out
here.
None
of which invest in carbon offsets.
Laura,
he's not in.
Let me ask the question. If polluting the planet is so bad, if he's going to lecture us about walking and taking rail and not using SUVs, why bother with buying a carbon offset? Why doesn't he just lead by example so he doesn't have to buy the offsets? Why can't he lead by example? How do you defend his private jet use? How do you defend him using 20 times the amount of energy as the average American?
Well, I'll tell you. First of all, the private jet. Hey, education means travel, and that's what he's doing around this world and this globe to find the solution for global warming.
Liberal
Number two,
elitism.
the House.
Elitism.
It's all about choices. Al Gore is not telling people to live in a shack lit by candlelight. He's saying make the right choices. So he has a large home. He works out of his home. So does his wife. He's got 4 children and grandchildren. He purchases all green power. He purchases all green power, all carbon offsets, bringing his emissions into the environment to zero impact.
Here's what the Tennessean says about his company. Gore helped found Generation Investment Management, through which he and others pay for offsets. The firm invests the money in solar wind. Quiet now. In solar, wind, and other projects that reduce energy consumption. He's profiteering from environmental coups.
Thank you all.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They also...
And coming up next, they're Islamic terrorists. They're linked to Iran, and they are right here in our homeland. We'll have a revealing look behind that and much more straight ahead.
I always wanted to be a doctor, but not just to work a certain number of years and then retire. I promised myself that I would get to the point where I would be able to give back and share what I know, and not just have a career, but a real purpose.
You once made a promise to yourself about your future. At John Hancock, we have the products you need to help build, protect, and sustain the future you've always wanted. John Hancock, the future is yours.
You own your own business, and today, you're expecting a package. The thing is, you're going to be at every address in town, except your own.
Don't you worry about a thing.
All you need is a mailbox at the UPS store. We'll sign for your packages, receive your mail, and keep it secure until you can pick it up. And your business gets a real street address. So when it comes to your mail, let the UPS store worry about it. That's our thing.
Don't you worry about a thing.
The UPS store, the place for mailbox services and a whole lot more.
Can one multivitamin be right for both men and women?
I never gave it much thought.
I think they're all pretty much the same.
Not true. Men and women have different health issues. That's why One A Day is the only complete multivitamin with formulas that give men and women more of what matters to them. Like more vitamin D, which emerging research suggests may support breast health in women. Or more lycopene, which Harvard studies suggest may help prostate health in men. Get more of what matters to you with One A Day.
My cholesterol was out of whack. My bad cholesterol was high, and my good cholesterol was low. But I went online and I got this free Getting It Right kit. I learned that with my health factors, it was even more important that I get my cholesterol where my doctor wants. Now, he has me on Crestor. Crestor, along with diet, can lower the bad cholesterol. It can also raise the good. So is Crestor right for you? Ask your doctor. Mine said Crestor isn't for everyone, like people with liver disease or women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. And simple blood tests will check for liver problems. He also said to tell him about other medicines I'm taking, or if I have muscle pain or weakness, that could be a sign of serious side effects. Is your cholesterol out of whack? Go to gettingitright.com and get your free Getting It Right kit. Crestor helps get your cholesterol right.
If you're without prescription coverage and can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
From America's Newsroom, I'm Lori Dew. The UN Atomic Watchdog Agency could be getting ready to hit Iran where it hurts tomorrow, possibly pulling the rug right out from under the Islamic Republic's nuclear program by halting technical aid to the country. The move would immobilize Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad as he tries to move forward with the program in defiance of the United Nations. Seemingly paranoid Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez calling the Deputy Secretary of State John Negroponte a professional killer. Chavez saying the CIA and others are out to assassinate him, but would not elaborate on those allegations. Negroponte is the former director of the U.S. National Intelligence Agency. The Venezuelan leader says the murder plot thickened when Negroponte moved to the State Department. Well, it's back to the hangar for Space Shuttle Atlantis after a brutal hailstorm pummeled the ship while it was outside. The tiles that cover the shuttle's fuel tank were damaged. Now NASA has to figure out whether or not it can fix the dents. If not, the next mission will have to be moved from March 15th till at least the end of April. The bus driver involved in that deadly crash in Atlanta on Friday knew the route well. That is according to passengers who had ridden with him before. The driver, one of 6 people killed. Investigators believe he may have mistaken an exit ramp for a regular lane. Officials in Georgia say they have no immediate plans for changes at the scene of the accident. And if this does not make your blood boil, nothing will. Check this out. 2 toddlers, ages 2 and 5, caught on tape smoking marijuana in the state of Texas. An uncle of one of the children is accused of showing them how to smoke it. Police found the tape last month while investigating 2 of the teenagers in connection with some burglaries. Unbelievable. Hannity's America returns after the break. Stay tuned.
And welcome back to Hannity's America. A terrorist organization bent on destruction is a frightening scenario, especially when it's supported by a nuclear Iran and its fundamental leaders. In a new book entitled Hezbollah, A Short History, the author Augustus Richard Norton exposes the metamorphosis of the terror group. Fox News' Rudy Bakhtiar went further in depth in our unauthorized history of Hezbollah.
Hezbollah, meaning Party of God, is a Shiite Islamic militia and a growing political and paramilitary organization. Based in Lebanon, its cells are worldwide and throughout the United States. The U.S. State Department lists the group as a state sponsor of terrorism. Hezbollah's ideology can be traced back to the leader of the Islamic Revolution in Iran, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. To this day, Iran continues to exert its influence over Hezbollah and is the group's primary financial supporter and main arms supplier. The terror group was initially formed to combat the Israeli invasion of Lebanon in 1982, but according to its manifesto, it was officially founded on February 16, 1985. Scholars continue to debate when it became a distinct entity. Most Americans first learned about Hezbollah on October 23, 1983, in what has become known as the Beirut barracks bombing. As the Lebanese civil war was in full force, 2 truck bombs struck buildings in Beirut housing both American and French members of the multinational force in Lebanon. It was the largest non-nuclear explosion to ever hit the face of the earth at that time. A total of 241 American servicemen, including 220 Marines, 18 Navy personnel, and 3 Army soldiers were killed, and more than 60 Americans were injured. April 12, 1984, an attack on a restaurant in Spain kills 18 U.S. servicemen, injuring 83 people. June 14, 1985, Hezbollah terrorists hijacked TWA Flight 847, severely beating a U.S. Navy diver before killing him and dumping his remains onto the tarmac at Beirut Airport. March 17, 1992, with the help of Iranian agents, a Jewish synagogue in Argentina is attacked, killing 29 and injuring over 200 others. June 25, 1996, the Khobar Towers bombing in Saudi Arabia, killing 19 U.S. servicemen and wounding 372 people. Hezbollah has evolved into a worldwide terrorist organization, eclipsing other groups such as Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and even Al-Qaeda. It's often referred to as the A-team amongst terror groups, with Al-Qaeda referred to as the B-team. As a proxy of Iran and its radical leader, President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and with its worldwide reach, a nightmare scenario has emerged. Cells now operate openly in the United States. They raise money from legal and illegal operations and funnel the proceeds via charity organizations back to their leaders in the Middle East. These cells are known to authorities to operate in at least 10 U.S. cities, from Los Angeles to New York. July 2000, U.S. authorities bust an illegal cigarette smuggling ring in North Carolina, charging 18 suspects in the crime with known ties to Hezbollah. March 2005, an illegal alien residing in Dearborn, Michigan, pleads guilty to providing material support for Hezbollah. He's also the brother of the group's chief of military security in southern Lebanon. April 2005, a 41-year-old businessman from Dearborn, Michigan, and known Hezbollah supporter, charged with stealing over $400,000 by means of credit card fraud. August 2006, a U.S. businessman is charged with broadcasting Hezbollah's TV station to New York-based customers. While the group has not launched an open attack on U.S. soil, authorities fear the worst as nuclear tensions rise between the United States and Iran. The reprisal for a possible U.S. strike on the Islamic Republic may have cataclysmic consequences right here in the homeland. The question is, what's the worst Hezbollah can do right here in America? Suicide attacks on public transportation? Taking students hostage at any number of our schools, or launching large-scale, widespread attacks on our most vital infrastructures? The answer is, we just don't know. As we approach the 6th-year anniversary of 9/11, and with no attack on the homeland since, U.S. authorities continue to monitor known terrorist cells to the best of their ability. But with Hezbollah's training, support, and ties to Iran, there's rising concern the group may act at any moment.
And obviously pretty frightening. And coming up next, we take a look at how global warming extremists are twisting the facts and taking advantage of polar bears to push their political agenda. And later, we get into the fast lane. We're joined by race car driver sensation Ashley Force will join us straight ahead.
Looking for some guidance? E-Trade makes investing easy with experts to talk to when you need them, plus 6 free sources of independent research. It's easy. It's extraordinary. It's E-Trade.
I got something here that can help build more houses, design more decks, and help more people. Bayer Aspirin helps prevent 1 out of 3 heart attacks for people at appropriate risk. Be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. Bayer, expect wonders.
So, you got that free checking account from Regions?
Yep.
What if you win the $1 million?
Well, we'll buy those window treatments for the guest bedroom, and then we'd buy that 7-piece dinette set with a matching baker's rack.
And I would totally score the original captain's chair from Space Quest 2. It would be
great. Open a Regents free checking account, and you could win one of our weekly $10,000 prizes and have a chance to win $1 million.
Hey, Vicky. Everyone look that way.
Pew, pew. So, Stu, tell me how that tiny cat litter works.
Well, it's revolutionary. Now it's formulated to absorb quickly and create crumble-free clumps, which means odor's locked in, so you can have numerous felines over and no one would ever know.
You are such a bad boy.
You know it.
So can I invite some friends?
Yes.
Come on in, boys.
Boys?
Tidy cats. Multiple strengths for multiple cats.
Hey, that's my sister.
1 deserted island. 12 determined auto insurance executives. Only 1 winning policy. Want to save hundreds on auto insurance? Let insurance companies compete for your business. At insurance.com, you can compare quotes from top companies, then buy the policy that's right for you. Lowest price guaranteed. May the best quote win. Visit insurance.com today or call 1-800-880-YOU-WIN.
My cholesterol was out of whack. My bad cholesterol was high, and my good cholesterol was low. But I went online and I got this free Getting It Right kit. I learned that with my health factors, it was even more important that I get my cholesterol where my doctor wants. Now, he has me on Crestor. Crestor, along with diet, can lower the bad cholesterol. It can also raise the good. So is Crestor right for you? Ask your doctor. Mine said Crestor isn't for everyone, like people with liver disease or women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. And simple blood tests will check for liver problems. He also said to tell him about other medicines I'm taking, or if I have muscle pain or weakness, that could be a sign of serious side effects. Is your cholesterol out of whack? Go to gettingitright.com and get your free Getting It Right kit. Crestor helps get your cholesterol right.
If you're without prescription coverage and can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
And welcome back to Hannity's America. As part of the growing global warming debate, environmental extremists have turned to the well-being of polar bears to try and make their argument. Well, it turns out what they are saying is not exactly true. Now take a listen as we uncover how these extremists are exploiting the polar bear for their own political agenda.
The global warming alarms are blaring, Hollywood is running for greener hills, and Al Gore's message of impending doom has found itself a face. Now, you've all seen it, and it's certainly a compelling one. The giant white polar bear wading from sea ice to sea ice in search of refuge and food, only to find itself swimming longer distances as its habitat melts away. But like questions surrounding the merits of global warming, scientists are now saying that the icon of the climate crisis is not exactly in danger.
Polar bear today population, in terms of the actual estimates, is in the order of roughly from about 22,000 to 25,000 overall. So there are some 20 subpopulation of polar bear around the whole Arctic Circle. But then if you look back, let's say in 1960s, there was really the polar bear number was estimated to be as low as 5,000.
So why would the polar bear, whose population numbers are currently in the 20+ thousand, find itself vying for the title of threatened under the Endangered Species Act? Or could it be that the polar bear is nothing more than a political pawn in the fight for global warming legislation? Well, according to the Endangered Species Act, if polar bears made it on the list, the government would be forced to take action to, quote, improve climate conditions. As stated in the act, quote, the purposes of this act are to provide a means whereby the ecosystems upon which the endangered species and threatened species depend may be conserved, to provide a program for the conservation of such endangered species and threatened species, and to take such steps as may be appropriate to achieve the purposes of the treaties and conventions set forth in subsection of this section. It is further declared to be the policy of Congress that all federal departments and agencies shall seek to conserve endangered species and threatened species and shall utilize their authorities in furtherance of the purposes of this act.
Just from the facts itself, I really do not know how to even argue that polar bear is now should be listed under endangered condition or under threatened condition, because I don't really see where the argument is, because all these scenarios about future warming is really very seriously wrong.
By listing the polar bear as threatened, the government would be forced to acknowledge the questionable science of global warming and in turn put legislation in place to combat it. What's more troubling is that the scientific findings used to back the request are conflicting. For example, in 2004, researchers from the U.S. Minerals Management Service found 4 dead polar bears floating in the sea, and some used that to push the idea that the bears drowned because melting sea ice had forced the bears to swim further in search of land. Well, in actuality, the researchers who found the bears did say that they noticed bears swimming longer distances in past years, but in this case, a severe storm off the Alaska coastline was responsible for their drowning.
Polar bear overall is it's a fairly good swimmer, fairly robust adapter to climate change. I mean, polar bear can already withstand climate change of as large as a few to 10 degrees Celsius.
Some scientists even question the research behind melting ice caps and its impact on the polar bear.
When I look specifically into the data for the sea ice and then for the temperature, when you look carefully at both of the records, you really cannot even convince yourself. You can only come to the conclusion that even the evidence for sea ice melting at the particular region, let's say the Western Hudson Bay, is not very convincing. In fact, meaning that you really cannot make a case for it scientifically. But then one cannot even see any warming sign if you look carefully over a full range of data.
The Department of the Interior will conduct a year-long study into whether the polar bear is actually threatened as it sorts through the conflicting research. But the real question they need to look at is, are people like Al Gore really concerned about the fate of the polar bear, or is this Arctic giant a very convenient and very compelling symbol for environmentalists who want a backdoor in their global warming legislation?
And coming up, we switch it into high gear and talk with race car driver Ashley Force. And later, as President Bush faces great opposition from his liberal counterparts over the war in Iraq, well, we look at how Ronald Reagan would have handled this in a new segment we introduced tonight called What Would Reagan Do?
This is you. You've awakened in the dark because your sleep aid didn't give you a full night of sleep. And all you can do is lie there and wish you could go back to sleep. Tomorrow, ask your doctor about Lunesta. Non-narcotic Lunesta can help you sleep 7 to 8 peaceful, quiet hours. Lunesta helps you fall asleep quickly, so take it right before bed. Be sure you have at least 8 hours to devote to sleep before becoming active. Always talk to your doctor first before taking sleep aids for extended periods. Until you know how you'll react to Lunesta, you should not drive or operate machinery. Do not take Lunesta with alcohol. Most sleep medicines carry some risk of dependency. Side effects may include unpleasant taste, headache, drowsiness, and dizziness. Tomorrow night, leave the rest to Lunesta.
In our family, if it's not going to be easy, it's probably not going to happen.
Everything's simple with the Charter bundle.
And we are all over simple.
I started with Charter Digital Cable. I added Charter Telephone.
And then we added Charter High-Speed Internet.
No drama.
Easy.
No problems.
And now all my Charter services are on one bill.
Now that's simple.
And simple is something we can definitely handle.
Get Charter High-Speed Internet and telephone together for just $59.98 per month for 6 months. Call today.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Oh, 先生你好，歡迎光臨，等等先。誒，唔該晒。
Brandon.
You are black, even a little dandruff shows.
That's why more people are switching from ordinary dandruff shampoo to Selsun Blue, doctor recommended for flakes and itch, with aloe and moisturizers for healthier hair and scalp. Make the switch.
Never wear black without the blue. Selsun Blue.
When I wear black, I don't want flakes, but I do want healthy hair.
Then switch to Selsun Blue Salon.
So soft, so rich.
No flakes, no itch.
Maximum dandruff relief, rich with vitamins and moisturizers. Selsun Blue Salon. Never wear black without the blue.
And welcome back to Hannity's America. Race car driver Danica Patrick. She may be the darling of the IndyCar world, but the National Hot Rod Association has its own female sensation. Funny car driver Ashley Force. Ashley, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm trying to understand. I don't even know how you can possibly have a Ford Mustang, which is the car you're driving, the funny car you're driving. What is it, 8,000 horsepowers, and you've got it up to 320 miles per hour?
That is correct, in under in 4.7 seconds. So, and it's in a quarter mile, 0 to 320 in less than 5 seconds. It's exciting.
Wow, I bet it's pretty thrilling too. But do you get nervous ever when you go on that fast?
You know, I haven't had any big accidents, but I've watched my dad over the years. He's been racing for 30 years, and he's caught on fire, flipped over. He's done everything, and he's survived it. So we build safe cars, and we try our hardest. I have faith in my team that they keep me protected.
Well, now, your dad is John Force. He's a 14-time funny car champion. I mean, many view him really as like the Babe Ruth of funny car racing, right?
Yeah, he's quite a character if you ever get a chance to see him on an interview. His hair sticks straight up, and he's got dirt all over his face, and the fans love him. He's an exciting guy to be around, and you know, he talks as quick as these race cars go. So I grew up loving the sport because my dad taught me the way, and I became addicted to it very young watching him race.
Why are there so few women in racing in general, in auto racing in general? You know, I know we have Danica Patrick, but there really are few women. And do you think this is a breakthrough?
In drag racing, you'll see a lot more women, and I don't know that much about other auto sports, but I know in drag racing you'll see a lot more because there's many different categories. You don't have to just have a $1 million sponsorship and jump into the pro categories. You can race street cars, you can race super comp. There's so many different categories that there's many families out there that race on the weekends, and then they go back and do their normal job during the week. And I think that's where you'll see a lot of the young girls getting into it with their dads just as a fun weekend thing, and then they're the ones that grow up like a lot of the other women that race now.
All right, now, are the guys in any way intimidated? How are they treating you in the sport?
I've had a great experience so far. This is my 6th year racing, my 1st year moving into the professional categories, but I've always felt very welcomed. The men that I raced against, a lot of them had daughters that raced, so they were excited to have a woman in the lane next to them. I don't know what it'll be like in funny car, but I'm excited to move up because the men that I race against, they've watched me grow up. And in this day and age, I'm proud to be a part of where it's not about the gender, it's more about the team and the skill and getting out there and competing on that high level.
All right, Ashley, we're going to be watching 320 miles per hour, very high rate of speed. We wish you all the best of luck, and please be safe out there. Thanks very much, Ashley Force. Appreciate it. All the best to your dad, too. I think I need to race Alan Combs. Anyway, and coming up tonight, as we live through a time when many question our presence in Iraq, well, we asked tonight, what would Reagan do?
At A.G. Edwards, we offer objective financial advice. And that can help you build a better nest egg. A.G. Edwards, fully invested in our clients.
Right now, stay at any Best Western hotel and earn double points or double miles with our free loyalty program, Gold Crown Club International. And AAA members earn triple rewards. Now through April 13th. Join today at bestwestern.com.
The Verizon Wireless Broadband Access Card transforms any time into productive time. So when you're on the go, so is the network. It's 100% business and 0% office. Connect to email, downloads, and browse the internet while working on America's most reliable wireless broadband network. To learn more, visit our website or a store near you.
My name is Amy. I'm a single mom. When I saw this place for sale, it just looked homey. Refinished all the floors, all new windows, 5 stitches there, plenty of splinters. There are those projects that are 3 trip to the Home Depot, the 5 trip, or there could even be the 10 trip. They know their stuff. I went from feeling like I really couldn't do anything else to feeling like I can do whatever I want. If my girls do have heroes, I'd love to be one of them.
My name is Roberta Smith, and I was born in 1906.
My name is Leonard Ross. I've been playing professionally 80 years.
My name is Van Schuler. I'm 100 years old, and I'm having a great time.
I never thought I would live to be 100.
I am one of the lucky ones.
No matter how old you are, plan for tomorrow, but live for today. Genworth Financial. Insurance for living, solutions for life.
Hi, Kathy Mitchell here in the kitchen with the incredible new flat fold colander. It opens to strain and folds flat for easy storage. It's large enough to strain a big pot of pasta, but folds down small enough that you can store it anywhere. Other colanders sit low in the sink. so the water actually backs up inside. But the flat fold colander stands tall, so water stays away from the food.
Call now to get the flat fold colander for just $14.99. As a bonus, you'll also get the 6-piece flat fold storage set.
They store flat so they save a lot of space, then pop open easily to keep foods in the refrigerator or freezer, and they're dishwasher safe.
But wait, order right now and we'll even include a second flat fold colander. Just pay separate shipping and handling. That means you get 2 flat fold colanders and the 6-piece flat fold storage set, a combined $45 value, all for just $14.99.
Call 1-800-524-7671 and get flat fold colander for only $14.99. That's 1-800-524-7671. Use your credit card and call now. 1-800-524-7671.
And finally tonight, it's time for our Enemy of the Week. This week, it is a man who threatens the very freedom of the United States and the rest of the Western world. It is Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Now, during a speech in the Sudan this week, the world's most dangerous leader blamed the U.S. and Israel for all the world's problems, saying that there isn't a conflict in the world without the fingerprints of the Americans and the Zionists. Talk about preaching to the choir. The Sudanese were the one-time host to Osama bin Laden. They have turned a blind eye for years to the slaughter of their own citizens in Darfur. Ahmadinejad's rhetoric would be comical if he wasn't actually serious. Anybody who vacations in Khartoum and sips mojitos with Castro and Hugo Chavez, well, he puts himself at the top of the most wanted list. That's why, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, you are the enemy of the week. Now, before we go, earlier in the program, we told you about dangerous Democratic double talk about the war in Iraq. Now, it makes many Americans wonder if liberals know what it takes to keep America strong and safe, and it also made me and us wonder, what would Ronald Reagan do when faced with this sort of weak-kneed opposition? Now, during the Cold War, Reagan faced off with liberals whose depressing rhetoric threatened the very future of this nation. He addressed these very issues during his famous 1964 speech on behalf of Barry Goldwater that was entitled A Time for Choosing.
Those who would trade our freedom for the soup kitchen of the welfare state have told us they have a utopian solution of peace without victory. They call their policy accommodation. And they say if we'll only avoid any direct confrontation with the enemy, he'll forget his evil ways and learn to love us. All who oppose them are indicted as warmongers. They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple. If you and I have the courage to tell our elected officials that we want our national policy based on what we know in our hearts is morally right, we cannot buy our security, our freedom from the threat of the bomb, by committing an immorality so great as saying to 1 billion human beings now enslaved behind the Iron Curtain, give up your dreams of freedom, because to save our own skins, we're willing to make a deal with your slave masters. Alexander Hamilton said, a nation which can prefer disgrace to danger is prepared for a master and deserves one. Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second: surrender. Admittedly, there's a risk in any course we follow other than this, but every lesson of history tells us that the greater risk lies in appeasement. And this is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement. And it gives no choice between peace and war, only between fight or surrender. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And what then? Well, Nikita Khrushchev has told his people he knows what our answer will be. He has told them that we're retreating under the pressure of the Cold War, and someday, when the time comes to deliver the final ultimatum, our surrender will be voluntary, because by that time, we will have been weakened from within spiritually, morally, and economically. He believes this because from our side, he's heard voices pleading for peace at any price, or better read than dead, or as one commentator put it, he'd rather live on his knees than die on his feet. And therein lies the road to war, because those voices don't speak for the rest of us. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. If nothing in life is worth dying for, when did this begin? Just in the face of this enemy? Or should Moses have told the children of Israel to live in slavery under the Pharaohs? Should Christ have refused the cross? Should the patriots at Concord Bridge have thrown down their guns and refused to fire the shot heard round the world? The martyrs of history were not fools. And our honored dead, who gave their lives to stop the advance of the Nazis, didn't die in vain. Where then is the road to peace? Well, it's a simple answer after all. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance.
And that is our rendezvous with destiny. And that's it for this edition of Hannity's America. Don't forget, tomorrow night, 9 Eastern, Hannity and Combs and Coulter will be our guests. Have a great rest of the weekend.